Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Old Hunt, where we are celebrating 10 years of Bloodborne. And today, we are especially going to be celebrating 10 years of the Chalice Dungeons. That's right, in between episodes, in between recording sessions here, I had some time to think, and I thought, you know what? We just went through Old Yharnam to pick up the Chalice, the Tumuru Chalice, that will allow us to begin the dungeon dive, and the things that I was going to do, progressing forward in the game, will make a little bit more sense if we've explored the Chalice Dungeons, and I think the Chalice Dungeons are pretty cool. And I realized there are some things I forgot in Old Yharnam. I saw it, for example, in editing, that I happened to overlook the rifle spear. I did the same thing in translation board. I don't know what it is about the location of the rifle spear, but apparently I just am no good at recognizing it, picking it up. But that's okay. We're going to save that. We're going to save talking to Alfred. We're going to save all of that. And we're going to switch focus a little bit. We're going to do some Chalice Dungeoneering. And in order to do that, we're going to need a new weapon. Oh, yep, the doll's asleep. So we're going to... Oh, and Gehrman's here. We're not going to talk to him either. You get to wait, Gehrman. You get to do your favorite thing. Let's see. Let's get this out of here. And we're going to go with the last of the three starter weapons here. We began with the threaded cane. We moved over to the hunter axe. And we have yet to use the saw spear. Actually, no, this is the saw spear. This is the saw cutter? Why do I always forget the name of this thing? I don't know. Saw cleaver. Cleaver, of course. Yeah, the final kanji there is just like knife, if I remember correctly, and so it throws me off. It didn't help that previously I kept wanting to call it the hunter whatever. But oops. Say all that and I didn't equip it. We're going to put that on our equipment screen there. We are going to, first of all, make sure everything is in good repair. Then we are going to remove the blood gems from our hunter axe. And then we are going to power up our saw cleaver. Going to get this all the way to level 3. At the point we don't have any twin bloodstone shards yet. But that's okay, because the first Chalice dungeon shouldn't require that extensive a weapon upgrade. Okay, and I'm still good with the pistol in terms of that thing. Let's see what sort of gems we can throw in here. Let's see. Plus 20 was good. Plus 21, yeah, but it's from the special thing. All right, so let's just go with up to plus 20. And then the droplet gem that we, of course, have still from being merciless. And I believe that means we are pretty much good to go. But before we can jump... So first... Oh, we're not good to go if I'm not using it. So here we are. This is sort of the standard hunter weapon. This is the one that's featured in a lot of the artwork for the game. But there it is. It's the saw cleaver. And I actually remembered its name this time. Which is a good sign. But in order to get to the Chalice Dungeons, we need to take some special steps. So let's take a look at... Where's everything I need? Oh, of course, it's all in this... special stuff. All right, it's in its own categories. So here we have the Tumuru Chalice. And this is, let's see. Okay, this is the ritual holy chalice that was safely placed in the Holy Chalice Church. I think Church of the Good Chalice is the official translation, which I like. Gets a little bit of variety there, as opposed to just repeating holy all the time. Let's see. If you perform a ritual at a gravestone altar in the hunter's dream, it should break a seal in the underground labyrinth. Holy chalices reveal the tomb of the gods, and that blood becomes a hunter's nourishment. Partake in communion. And communion there, that last phrase of the very final line here. So first of all, those last two lines of the Japanese, you'll note they're a little bit indented from the rest. They're sort of set off on their own. That's because that's actually a direct quote from Gehrman's earlier dialogue. This is also why I had a little bit of an easier time doing a quick translation of them, because I was able to reference Gehrman's lines in my head. I don't think I got them perfect, but reasonably close. And that sort of helped speed things along a little bit. But the thing to note is that final sort of phrase there, something about partaking in communion in the original dialogue, and same thing here. It's being expressed using the Japanese expression for communion, which literally works out to the humble reception of the holy body. And the holy body in this particular instance, we're talking not necessarily about a physical body because, all right, so first of all, communion, we're talking about in the Christian tradition, the body and the blood of Jesus Christ. And a hugely contentious issue, exactly what's going on in communion. People have literally died over their answers to that question. So I don't want to get too wrapped up in the weeds there. But the idea is definitely that you are taking in a substance, right? And this is something that you can sort of see a little bit in body. It can, like, the kanji for body can physically refer to one's like physique, one's actual body. Can also refer to a body like the word for, say, liquid in Japanese is ekitai. And the first one is like fluid and the second one is body. It's the same kanji, it comes back, right? Sort of like we talk about bodies of water in English. And that's something that's important to keep in mind. So the holy substance might be a better thing, because is this the body or is this the blood that we're talking about when we're referring to Holy Communion, right? Because this is, like I said, an existing phrase in like modern Japanese Christianity, seitai o hairyo suru, or seitai hairyo, I think just has a single set of 4 kanji without the o and the suru to set up the verb noun relationship. Just the seitai hairyo phrase on its own can be Holy Communion. So it's telling us to partake in communion, but I bring up the literal breakdown of the Japanese because there's always a little bit of a question in my mind as to how much of a pun or a play on words or a play on concepts is happening, particularly since this is the fantasy world of Bloodborne. This is not actually, surprise, this isn't actually related to the Christian religion, although it's probably based off of it. I don't think they throw in Seitai Hairyo and don't expect there to be some reference to the Christian religion. And it's sort of always been a question mark for me exactly how much stock to put in the Christian influences of this game, because it shows up in a lot of different aspects of this game. And it doesn't feel like a Christian developer made this game. It sort of feels to me like an outsider looking in at the Christian perspective, which it sort of is. I don't think the director or anyone at From Software, the developers, are Christian. Most people in Japan aren't. I think something like 1% of the general Japanese population is Christian. But there's a lot of stuff in here that's heavily borrowing from Christian iconography, Christian ideas. We're going to get to holy relics later on, and it's definitely lifted from Christian tradition. We're going to see an act sort of based on communion, and it's sort of based on Catholicism, and we get church titles. We know that the Catholic title of like Father for Father Gascoigne is not a rank that exists in the Healing Church, so that helps establish that there's not a direct one-to-one parallel. They're sort of playing with your expectations a little bit there, but at the same time, we're going to be talking about a vicar, and it gets sort of blurred, sort of confusing as to how much Christianity you can read into this game. But that last concept there, that concept of the Holy Communion, the idea that you're taking in this substance that serves as some form of representation, be it literally physical or just metaphorical, of some sort of higher being, right? I think that's definitely something that we can actively think of in Bloodborne. And the question is, how literal? And how much is that whole idea of humbly receiving the holy body like actually talking about a body? Is it talking about blood in the blood and body, like the bread and wine? Or is it talking about the wine? Is it talking about the bread? Like, what exactly is going on here? It's all very fuzzy. And I think that's important to keep in mind. But also, just know there is a reference to communion here. I think it's pretty significant. And in terms of Bloodborne's lore, though, we don't have to get too bogged down in those weeds just yet. We can focus on the idea that the underground labyrinth is another term for the Tomb of the Gods, because we know that using this Holy Chalice unlocks seals that allow us to access the underground labyrinth, and the Holy Chalice in the final dialogue there is said to reveal the Tomb of the Gods. So the Tomb of the Gods is the underground labyrinth, and the blood that we find in there, presumably, that's what that blood in the second to last line there is probably referencing. The blood that we find in there will be a hunter's nourishment. What exactly is that blood? I don't know. I'm not sure how much we can differentiate the different sorts of bloods that we run into. But in order to perform the ritual of the Holy Chalice in the Hunter's Dream, we need to, first of all, we need to go to a special altar. We need to use a Holy Chalice, such as this one here, the Tumuru Holy Chalice. And we also need to use a special ritual material. And we found this also in Old Yharnam, not in the same place we got the Tumuru Chalice, but still important. This is ritual blood, and it's level 1. It's sort of one of the clumsy things about Bloodborne. They put a lot of these numbers and numerals in a lot of the materials, and in some ways I think it's kind of cool, but in a lot of ways, particularly when it comes to Chalice Dungeon materials, it feels a little bit lazy. And also with blood gems, personally, it's always felt like I've liked the tradition of the Soul series a little bit more when you don't just have like soul item level 1, soul item level 2, soul item level 3. You have like souls of a lost soldier versus souls of like a veteran soldier. Those are terrible examples because I don't think they're right. But they're much more memorable that way, and they feel a little bit more thoughtful to me. You can take or leave your own interpretation there. But this does convey the point that this is just, you know, the level 1 version of ritual blood. Anyway, this is one of the materials that is necessary to perform a Holy Chalice ritual. Let's see. Particularly blood which never hardens is a basic material for fulfilling, for satiating a Holy Chalice. Blood melts everything, and everything is born from that. Interesting. I can't remember the official translation. I think it's something like, when all is melted in blood, all will be reborn. This is a little bit more active in the sense that it's saying blood will melt everything, and then from that everything being melted in blood, everything will be born. So that you can sort of see how the idea tracks in both languages, but it's an interesting sort of slight difference in the phrasing. I don't think it's hugely significant. I can't think of any particular thing that's like keying in my brain off the top of my head. But then I'm not exactly the greatest expert on the lore out there, as I'm sure you've probably figured out by this point in the playthrough. Anyway, we need to use this. It's one of the most basic materials needed to satiate a Holy Chalice, necessary for a Holy Chalice ritual. We have the material, we have the Holy Chalice, and we have, over here, the ritual altars. This is the first ritual altar. And as we also learned from the description, it is also a gravestone. But of course, we already knew that. So now we can, let's see, at the ritual altar, you can create a Holy Chalice dungeon by means of a Holy Chalice ritual. So once again, Chalice dungeon, same thing as the underground labyrinth, same thing as the Tomb of the Gods. That's something that really confused me the first time I played this game. It's probably something that nobody's confused by anymore because it's been 10 years, but I figure I point that out in case you're just following along with this playthrough for the first time. Those three things are sort of synonymous. Anyway, you can also search for Holy Chalice dungeons that hunters in other worlds have created. All right, and I want to come back to that idea because I think it's an important one. But first, we're going to conduct a Holy Chalice ritual. And look, these are all the different sorts of chalices we could find, but we don't have any of them. We're just starting out on our journey through the Chalice dungeons. We only have this very first one, the Tumuru Holy Chalice. So we're going to select it, and we need 2 ritual blood level 1s. We have 2 ritual blood level 1s. We need 1,000 blood echoes. Yeah, I've got those. So let's go ahead and perform the ritual. Perform the ritual and create the Holy Chalice dungeon. This will consume materials. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay. Dungeon has been created, and the Holy Chalice has been placed upon the altar. now you can explore the Holy Chalice Dungeon. Excellent. Before I go exploring the Holy Chalice Dungeon, let's see if I can level up, because I do have a good number of blood echoes.
Very well.
Let's find out. Oh yeah, look at that. Just enough. And I'm pretty happy with 18 for my arcane for now. I'm going to start boosting my vitality. I get a little bit gun shy having my vitality this low at this point in the game, so I'm just going to start boosting that for a little while. I know I said I wanted to get my arcane to 20, but really it's not going to give me any direct benefits for a little while yet anyway. So yeah, I'm comfortable with this decision.
Farewell, good hunt. May you...
Okay. Now, there's one other thing I want to check when I go over to this menu. Okay, it's just the Tumru ruins. Okay, so we're going to go to the Chamber of the Seal. I will see you on the other side. And we are here in the Tumru Labyrinth, level 1. And I'm just going to activate this lantern so that we can go back to the Hunter's Dream whenever we want. In the Chalice dungeons, not in this particular one, because this is a preset dungeon, there are occasionally illusory walls. There are no illusory walls in the main game. There are some in the Chalice dungeons. However, because, as I said, this is a story dungeon, there are none of them here. Also, just so people know, I know the Chalice dungeons are somewhat controversial in the sense that players don't all love them. There are some people who just are obsessed with them, other people who don't care about them at all. I've been on a very long and complicated journey with the Chalice dungeons. I've landed in a place where I actually really enjoy them, but I understand that's not everybody's cup of tea, so I want to mention that for this playthrough, I know I said in an earlier episode I might just do the first layer of the first Chalice dungeon. I'm actually going to do the entire first Chalice dungeon, because I feel like you need to experience the whole first dungeon to really have an idea of what's going on with them mechanically. And if you're an old hand at Bloodborne and you already know all this stuff and you can't stand the Chalice dungeons, feel free to skip ahead until I've finished my Chalice dungeoneering that I can now assure you will be over by the end of episode 15. The benefits of editing myself in later are many. One thing even I'm not sure of, though, is whether I'll be returning to these Chalice dungeons on camera later, so I'll let Gameplay Matt explain why I might do that. Might come back because there's some very important stuff way down the line. Might not, I don't know. This isn't necessarily supposed to be a super comprehensive playthrough. I'm sending NPCs to Imposter Yusefka for crying out loud. So I'm definitely not going to see everything this game has to offer in this playthrough. But we can deal with that later on down the road. For now, I'll just say, if you're not interested in the Chalice dungeons, thank you for following along with this playthrough. I hope you'll stick around at least for the rest of this episode, because I do think that, and this is something that is going to bring me back to the point I was saying to sort of put a pin in that I wanted to come back to, regarding the cooperation of the Chalice dungeons, because this is the sort of final thing that I remember of the interviews that I wanted to bring up, which is the concept. I'm just reflexively rolling against these things because I've spent so long in the Chalice dungeons, and particularly in ones that do potentially have illusory walls. So I've just trained myself to search for them. So I'll try to refrain from the impulse. I know I have a friend in real life who has seen me play through the Chalice chats and gets really annoyed at my rolling against every wall. And there's no reason for me to do it in this playthrough right now. So I'm going to try and restrain that impulse from now on. But one thing that I do want to appreciate, particularly as this playthrough is a celebration of 10 years of Bloodborne, is the really strong concept. I don't know why I pressed R2. It is not a very strong feature of this particular weapon. Okay, good. We're not going to be in any serious danger here. But I just think the Chalice dungeons are a really cool idea. And whatever you think of their final implementation in the game, I think that you should be able to appreciate what the developers were going for. And going back to the idea of those interviews that I was mentioning that the developers gave around the launch time of this game, they talk about how one of the three main ideas that they brought up, and I've only talked about two so far. One of the three main ideas they talked about that they really wanted to emphasize in the process of creating this game was new online features. And this game came out fairly early in the life cycle of the PlayStation 4. It was not a launch title, but it was very close to it. I think just a matter of months after the PlayStation 4 came out. So one of the things that the developers were talking about was the PlayStation Share functionality. And I don't think I've ever used the PlayStation Share functionality, so I can't speak to that. But another way that they wanted to emphasize the new online features is tied to these Chalice dungeons. And I better not stand around or I will get hit with a Molotov cocktail. And I don't want that to happen. Nope, I don't want that. Ah! It happened. Despite my impulses. It happened anyway. Oh well. But one of the things that they wanted to emphasize was new online features. And they did that through the Chalice dungeons. And you're going to see, as I play through this game... Uh-oh. I'm just going to go this way. Oh, and I conveniently still have antidotes out from earlier. From the blood-starved beast. Alright, well... I fell down, but that's not the end of the world, really. Also, haha. Shadowy enemies getting hit by the guillotines. Okay. Alright. Here we go. Uh-oh. 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 Oh boy. Alright, well, I might die now, because that enemy has buffed itself. And I've sort of missed my biggest window of opportunity for punishing it. Oop! Oh, how generous! I missed the opportunity to get the kill, but... Ah! I did it! I killed him! Alright, if I die now, it's my own fault. Oh, Chalice dungeons never change. Alright, but the idea of new online features is important for this game because what you can do as you continue to delve into the Chalice dungeons is you can make, what do you call it? You can make your own Chalice dungeons. There are a set of something like 200 of each different type of Chalice dungeon that you can get once you collect a different sort of ritual Chalice. I might dive to the rats. Yep, there we go. Man, I survived that crazy ambush and I died to a bunch of rats. This is the danger of trying to play the game while I make a point. I've never been particularly good at it. But I can come at that situation from the other direction and make it a little bit less deadly. So I think that's what I'm going to do this time. But you can, like I was saying, make one of your own Chalice dungeons, and I will point it out again once we get that ability. Once you collect a root Chalice from further exploring into the Chalice dungeons. And there are, I mean, originally people thought that these were all randomly generated, but subsequent Chalice exploration has found, oh, and of course I can't go in here yet. Subsequent Chalice exploration has found that they're actually limited in number, and I can put up the exact numbers on the screen at some point in editing. And I guess maybe I can't access that particular passage from the... Oh, yes, I can. Here it is. Here we go. Let's go over here. Oh, boy, I was not ready for that. I'm glad he hadn't buffed himself, because that would have been a one-shot. Instead, it is this enemy who will die, because I know how to exploit his moveset. But as you've seen, this Chalice dungeon is sort of a glorification of the idea of exploring the unknown in a mechanical sense. You go from room to room, you explore passage after passage, you're not sure how they connect, just like your very first experience playing through the game. And some of these Chalice dungeons are set, right? This particular Chalice dungeon, you go through this particular layout every single time. So you can memorize the layout of this Chalice dungeon. But the root Chalice dungeons, the ones that you create from a catalog of like 200 plus for all sorts of different varieties, to like thousands of Chalice dungeons it works out to. You can't memorize them all. So essentially, when you create your own Chalice dungeons, you are creating your own unique, well, not wholly unique, but still, you're creating your own experience of a place to explore, of a place to experience the gameplay level exploration of the unknown that you had the very first time you played Bloodborne. And you can use the online features and share the dungeons that you've created. So after you've explored the unknown on your own, you can share the experience of exploring the unknown through gameplay with other players. And I think that's super cool. And I'm glad I stopped to actually talk and articulate that point, because oh boy, was it not going to happen if I continued to try and actually just engage in the gameplay. So that should give you an idea. Let's get the... Don't need these either. Let's get the pebbles back. Where the pebbles go? Here we go. As handy as it was to have the antidotes on my hotbar before, I'm hopefully never going to need them again. So I can avoid that particular trap and not need to cycle through them needlessly on my hotbar, and instead be able to draw enemies towards me with these pebbles. Okay. And yeah, I do not have this particular dungeon layout memorized, as you probably have gathered from the way that I said that I'd be able to jump sort of straight to this room with the rats, and then was not able to jump straight to this room with the rats and ran into that kidnapper enemy instead. So, but again, this one theoretically you could memorize. But I just think that's a really cool way of combining the theme of new online features, because again, the standard approach in the Souls games of, you know, players can leave messages for each other, they can engage in co-op for each other, like all that stuff had been done before. And so how do you innovate on that formula? Well, I think the Chalice dungeons are a really interesting attempt at innovating on that formula, and also integrating that idea, another one of the core themes that they were looking for when they were talking about making Bloodborne, of exploring the unknown. And I think that's awesome. And sadly, I mean, you could probably just get a sense from running around here. This world of the Chalice dungeons, because it puts that gameplay center, like so front and center, the amount of story-critical information and items and enemies that are down here, while not non-existent, it has a much higher level of like noise to the signal, right? There's a lot of rooms where you run around, kill a bunch of rats, pick up blood vials and Molotov cocktails, and all the layouts eventually start to look very similar, because whether or not you're actually randomly generating a dungeon when you're creating it, you... the way that they made like 200 plus variations of these things is by taking sort of similar layouts and sticking them together in a bunch of different ways. So it starts to feel very samey, right? I don't think that they perfectly executed on the concept that they were going for. And of course, like I said, the Chalice dungeons do have their admirers, and I would count myself as one of them at this point. I think the constant gameplay challenge and the thrill of exploring the unknown at high levels, and all of those things, I think it makes for a compelling experience, and I've sort of reset my expectations from the main game for what the Chalice dungeons are, and in doing so, I've been able to find a way to have fun with them. But it was not easy. It took me some work. The first time I played through them, I was really just looking for the lore information and the experience of truly understanding Bloodborne by going through the preset Chalice dungeons. And it just felt like a slog to me. It did not feel fun. It was only afterwards, when I ended up making the series that I called the Chalice Chats, in sort of a side project that grew out of my Translation-born series. It was only in working on the series in that way that I was able to sort of reconfigure my expectations and learn to love the Chalice dungeons. And not everyone wants to have that experience. Not everyone can have that experience, right? There's a certain extent to which you know, some people just aren't going to fall in love with the Chalice dungeons. And that's totally fine. You know? You don't necessarily have to fall in love with them. And, like, if you just care about learning about them, you don't, like, you can just satisfy yourself with the explorations of others, because the information's out there. In a way, sort of carrying forward that idea of, you know, online features, although that one's not new, right? Looking up lore information from other players on the internet is an old and storied tradition in the Soulsborne games. So, but it is another way of engaging with the community, and I think it's one of the reasons why the community has sort of grown in the way that it has, the collaborative spirit that these games foster. Boy, I just worked my way out of all that poison, and here I am getting hit with it again. The fact that they can poison me with one knife is really annoying. Fortunately, nothing hits hard enough to one-shot me down here, so it doesn't matter. I am getting rather tired of getting hit with that knife, though. Alright. Okay, here we go. Oh, come on! How is that not a visceral? Alright. Alright. Fair enough, game. I feel like I should have been able to get a visceral against that enemy. Anyway. That's my pitch on the Chalice dungeons. That's what I think is so cool about them. There will be more to say, and like I said, I will bring up again sort of the mechanic of sharing the dungeons when it's actually something that we could theoretically do. We can't actually do it because in order to play 1.00, I can't be on the internet. But I can share this playthrough with you. Again, one of the sort of older forms of sharing information about these games, online features. I don't know if I'd really call it a feature of the game, but it's is one aspect of online play in these games that's important. Don't really have to be doing any of this, so I'm not quite sure why I'm bothering. But, you know, it's fun to play Bloodborne. So, okay, now let me focus on actually just playing the game. And, okay, we gotta worry about this one throwing a knife right now. Ah. I was getting ready to hit the button to dodge past it. Uh-oh. No, don't fall. Don't fall me. Don't fall. Oh no. I fell. And I died. There go however many blood echoes that was. I refuse to admit defeat. We're gonna take that room by storm. I'm gonna take this rush and I'm gonna make it happen. I could probably make things a little bit easier on myself. If I recall correctly, this Charred Hunter set is not exactly super high in poison resistance. And now that I've realized I've climbed up the wrong ladder here. All right, 52. That's pretty high. Gascoigne's set there. The Yharnam Hunter set is also high in slow poison resist, but not as high as Gascoigne's. So let's change back into the Good Priest's outfit here. And see if that doesn't do something about our ability to not get poisoned by getting hit by one knife. Of course, ideally, I will just dodge the knife, but we saw how that went last time. And this time, uh-oh. Oh, great. Boy, I didn't get past the first obstacle. I didn't get past the first goon. Yep, the mechanical challenge of the Chalice dungeons is still here. I am, normally when I take on this first dungeon, I wait a little bit longer, and so I'm just mechanically way overpowered, and I don't have to worry about it at all. But between the fact that I've been leveling Arcane more than anything else... Oh yeah, I got my 0 blood echoes back, hooray. Between the fact that I've been leveling Arcane so religiously, and the fact that I am doing this Chalice dungeon immediately... it's presenting something of a challenge. Alright, and I want to see that bell ringer. She summons enemies. And this is another example of enemies coming in from... Look at that. Look at that. I didn't get instantly poisoned. Take her out and all the enemies she summoned goes away. That's a super important mechanic for the Chalice dungeons. And it shows up sort of in the main game, but not really. That's okay. But, it's another one of the, like, I was talking before about the materials enemies that can sort of vanish from our reality if we don't attack them quickly enough. bell-ringing maidens, the chime maidens, can summon in enemies from other worlds, sort of like we can summon players from other worlds. And in fact, some of the chime maidens, if we were playing online, would be able to summon players from other worlds. So there's really a wide variety of mechanics that the enemies can use that sort of put them in a similar state as the player. And also it's important just to know, like, they do introduce the concept of chime maidens calling in players from other worlds if you play the main game. But if, like me, you're playing in offline mode, they sort of never appear. So there is some story benefit in the sense that at some point you do have to factor in those chime maidens in the main story no matter what. And this, if you never come into the Chalice dungeons and you play offline, you'll never know exactly what their deal is, where they come from, and sort of what they do. So there is some pretty mission-critical information at work here. And I didn't realize there were 2 of those poison knife throwers. I thought there was only 1 left. So I'm glad I decided to sort of drop down that ledge there, take out this one. And now that it's just the one of you... Oh, come on! I thought I would finally get the timing down to dodge one of those... knives, but whatever. Whatever. I've achieved my objective here. I've cleared out this room, and now I can throw this lever and unlock a door. Somewhere, a door that blocks the underground labyrinth has opened. A door that closes the underground labyrinth has opened. We saw it before. It was the door that was set up with that sort of glowing purple light. And now it should have turned green, sort of like that. I don't... Oh, there's probably a messenger. Yeah, you can see these little messengers with lanterns that mark important passages. And it is now glowing green. I don't know how significant that is. But the passage that will, spoiler alert, bring us to the boss of this particular Chalice dungeon has now been unlocked because I found the main lever and threw it. And before we fight that boss, I think this is a good point to end the episode. Welcome to the Chalice dungeons, 10 years on. I hope you're having fun with this. I've been having a blast. I hope I was able to sort of articulate enough of my points that this all made sense. Thank you all for following along with this playthrough. I'm going to call it end to my hunt for the evening, but as always, I wish you all good hunting. Why not? I'm sitting down. I'm staring you in the face as I sit down, and I'm standing back up. And I can't end the episode like that. I refuse to accept it. Good hunting, everyone. Yeah.